Hello, my name is Tracy, VE3TWM. In this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Yaesu FT-817 HF transceiver. I'm going to tell you about why I got one and what I intend to do with it, and I'll also give you an overview of some of the things that I think are really interesting about this rig, and also let's take a look at some of the common complaints about this rig and see whether or not they're well-founded. Let's get on with it. I'm an outdoors-oriented kind of guy. I like camping, I like taking walks in the woods. Essentially, I like being out there. And while I've owned some transportable rigs in the past along the lines of the Yaesu FT-817, I've never really had a truly transportable small transceiver. And I'll be perfectly honest, I am an SSB single sideband operator. I don't really know the CW, even though I passed my exam years ago. It's not something that I've kept up with, and therefore I'm not proficient enough to be able to use QRP, small transceivers, in the field. So I wanted something that was single sideband and yet small enough to be able to take with me with an accompanying small power supply. That's the other side of the equation. If you take a 100 watt HF rig into the wild, you're taking a big, heavy power supply along with you, whether it's a big battery pack or something else along those lines. I really wanted something with a smaller form factor, and following the words of Dr. Wayne Dyer, who says buy experiences, not things, I decided to go for a different set of experiences within my ham radio adventures, and hence my acquisition of the FT-817. Having said that, what are my first impressions of the unit? So the first thing is that it is small. Now that's probably taken for granted. I have what my father used to refer to as meat hooks for hands, so they're rather large, but you can see in terms of the compact size, certainly smaller than my hand. And one of the things, of course, that's really of interest for a backpacker is that there's no problem finding a place in a backpack for a package this small. So that's a real bonus for me. Also, it's not particularly heavy. Next thing that I've noticed is that it has an interface which is very similar as the FT-857 and the FT-897, both of which I have owned in the past. So getting up to speed with how the unit operates, at least with basic functions, was pretty quick. The next thing I noticed was this carrying case that the fellow I purchased the unit from used, got a good deal for it. He has it in this carrying case. It's a Yaesu carrying case, and this radio is probably 12 years old, but you can't really tell because it's been protected. He never took it out of the case, so I'm thinking for about $40, which is about what you can buy one of those things for on eBay, that's a heck of an investment to protect your rig. Really nice, so definitely highly recommended. The next thing that I noticed about the FT-817, after plugging it into a power supply and plugging in an antenna, was the outstanding audio on this rig.
For the battery, like anything else, and some is not too good, but you gotta roll.
And believe me when I tell you, this is room-filling audio if you want it to be.
Kilo Mike 4 Delta Kilo Quebec from Kilo Mike 4 Oscar Papa.
It's loud, it's clear, absolutely not prepared for that kind of audio quality. It's out of the built-in speaker. That's not an external speaker we're listening to. Okay, I've been an ICOM guy for many, many years. Following the ICOM user interface is second nature to me. So when I got my FT-817, the first thing I did was reach up and tune it using the main tuning dial, and sure enough, works just great. And then, oh, got somebody who's a little bit loud. Let's go adjust the volume control, and wait a minute, that's not a volume control. The volume control is way over here on the right-hand side. Fair enough, okay. Just instinctive habit without reading the labels. No problem, I can get used to that. Interesting, though, what I find myself using, rather than the main tuning dial, is the select knob over here on the left-hand side. By the way, here's another first impression. The select knob, don't know if you can pick that up on the video, just a little bit loose, and that is the one thing of the radio that maybe could have been improved. Otherwise, the radio does feel solid and tight. Don't know if it's just the unit, this particular unit, that's got this problem. Don't know if there's something that I can tighten up as far as the switch goes, but it is something to be aware of. The rest of the unit is very solidly built, and I have no issues worrying about reliability long term. Now, what I was saying about the select knob here is that if you take a look at the display, you'll notice that as I turn it, I'm going up in single sideband mode. I'm going up 1 kilohertz at a time. Very quick tuning, great way to get from one end of the band down to the other, or just to quickly scan across and look for a signal. So the FT-817 has been around for a very long time. I think it was introduced around the year 2000, 2001, which means that this rig is pushing 15 years of its product lifespan. Now, fair enough, I do realize there was a slight variation to the FT-817 line when Yaesu released the FT-817ND, which featured 60 meters and a longer lifespan internal battery, although it is marginal in terms of the internal battery life. There's plenty of reviews out on the web in regard to the FT-817, and I thought I would like to address some of those. I mean, I'm coming from the perspective of somebody who wants to get out in the field with a good quality single sideband transceiver that wouldn't require me to also lug a very heavy battery pack or other power supply, which is going to really add to the weight and therefore reduce the desire to get out and actually do some operating. So let's take a look at some of the detractors and what they're saying about the rig, and I'd like to give you my own rebuttals to them. And of course, I'm going to welcome your comments in regard to the things that I address. The first complaint I'd like to address is that it's too expensive. And you know what, I can't really argue with that. It does cost as much as other entry-level 100-watt HF transceivers. However, I'm going to temper that. And by the way, for many years I was guilty of thinking along the same lines, and it's true. It absolutely is probably too expensive. But having now had the chance to actually get my hands on one, try it out, see what it's all about, I am now of a different mindset that this is a terrific unit, and while expensive, I can actually see that this is going to inject some real fun into my amateur radio activities going ahead. And I'm really looking forward to using the rig. So is it expensive? Yes. Is there value there? I believe, for me anyway, there certainly is. The next thing I'll address is poor internal battery life. So the FT-817ND, if I'm not mistaken, comes with a 1700 milliamp hour battery, which is not very beefy for a transceiver, which is drawing the juice that this unit does. So what do you do in a situation like that? Well, you can pack along a sealed lead acid battery. Here's a 3.5 amp hour SLA battery, which will probably get you 2 to 3 hours worth of operating. It's compact, so you could take it backpacking, and it doesn't take up much room. So these are big improvement over the types of batteries I've had to take to go out in the field with 100-watt transceivers in the past. One final note on the battery thought is, okay, even with the size of the unit here and this combined together, I'm still less than the weight and the scale of many 100-watt transceivers. So as a backpacker, that makes me happy. Next thing, let's talk about a noisy receiver. So yes, there is background noise, there's hash that you get when you're using the receiver. But this is a portable receiver, and you're going to be using it outdoors. Now, the outdoors is not a quiet environment, so I don't see that as being a big deal. You're dealing with noise anyway, and I'm coming off my experience with an ICOM 7200, which is a very nice noise blanking technology built into it. It's a very quiet receiver. I also have experience with my ICOM 740, which is one of the old style analog receivers, and it's beautiful in terms of quiet. I do not find the noise that comes from this unit to be objectionable. So I'm going to put that one to the side and say it's there, but it doesn't really bother me. I've managed to make multiple transatlantic contacts from right here in my shack, and noise has not been a factor, even though I'm in a very noisy environment. So I'm actually going to discount that particular one. By the way, a third-party company does make an internal DSP board to put inside the unit here, which will completely remove the background noise. That's an option. The next thing we'll talk about is the display and the controls are too small. Well, frankly, the appeal of the radio is that it's very small. So how are you going to get around that? Not sure. I don't know what people are talking about with that one. Maybe they just don't want a unit that's as portable as the FT-817. The next complaint we'll look at is that it's menu driven. Where are you going to put all the knobs and buttons? Of course it's menu driven, and if you think about it, I sell computer software for a living. They say that the overwhelming majority of Microsoft Word users use less than 5% of the features. Well, guess what? I think it's the same with HF transceivers. You use a few, most people use a few of the features almost all the time, and a lot of the other features they just don't use, or they use so infrequently that who really cares about that? So I get it, the menu driven folks, the ones who have an aversion to that, fair enough. I guess this is not the rig for you, and try out one of the smaller, lower cost QRP transceivers and have at it. I've also heard that the finals blow easily on this. Now, I did a lot of investigation into this and a lot of reading of reviews, and it does seem to me that those that have had this issue have used automatic tuners, and I see a lot of the complaints on blown finals with those using automatic tuners. In other words, they're not using resonant antennas. I use resonant antennas, so I don't see this as being an issue for me. Could I blow my finals at some point? Maybe I will. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully not, but I just wonder about this link between automatic tuners and blown finals on different rigs of different manufacturer, going beyond the scope of the FT-817. Interesting stuff, and perhaps that deserves a little more investigation. I've read about poor results going pedestrian portable. And this is on the HF bands, and I actually scratch my head about this one. This is an HF radio and requires HF antennas. HF antennas are not small. Do you really expect to be able to work 20 meters being pedestrian portable, walking down the street with a rig like this? And I don't know, to me it doesn't make sense. I guess there's frustration out there, but to each their own. Also, the supplied rubber duct does not work well. There is a rubber duct that screws into the front panel here that comes along with the FT-817 that allows for operation on 6 meters, 2 meters, and 440. All I'm going to say about that is that almost every HT on the market produced by the major manufacturers has terrible rubber duck antennas. This one is no exception, but should not be singled out as a result of it. So there you have it. Those are my initial impressions of the FT-817. I've got some adventures planned with this radio now that I've got it in my possession, one of which, and the first one that's coming up, is going to be operating field day, QRP, battery powered. I've never done this before. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to make 5 contacts or 50 contacts or even more. We'll see how that goes, but I'm looking forward to it. And now my field day's got that extra little bit of spice because I'm going to be running with a flea-powered rig. But I'll have another video talking about that in the months ahead. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I appreciate your comments. Feel free to leave them, pro or con. Help me get better at this YouTube video stuff. If you see something I'm doing wrong, or if I'm giving out bad information, I'm trying my best here, and I really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching. This is Tracy, VE3TWM.